Hello. Welcome to True Romance Stories. Sometimes, stories that begin with love, end with truths no one wants to face. And today, let's step into a story where, somewhere along the way, you might see yourself. The fluorescent lights hummed softly above, casting a cold, unforgiving glow across the sterile room. Everything was too clean, too quiet, too final. The faint rhythm of a heart monitor echoed in the background, steady but fragile, like it was counting down to something irreversible. She lay there, motionless except for the trembling in her fingers. Leather straps held her wrists and ankles firmly against the narrow surgical table. The metal beneath her felt colder than ice, seeping into her bones, stripping away any illusion of comfort. A thin hospital sheet covered her body, but it offered no warmth. No protection, only exposure. Her name was Emily Carter, 26 years old, a daughter, a dreamer, someone who once believed that love could save her. Now, she was waiting for it to end. A masked doctor stepped into view, his movements precise, almost mechanical. He adjusted his gloves slowly, deliberately, as if time itself bent around his control. Behind him, a nurse checked instruments laid out in perfect order, each one gleaming under the harsh lights. The doctor's voice broke the silence, calm and detached. "Are you volunteering for the kidney donation?" "Miss Carter." The words sounded polite, professional, almost kind, but there was nothing kind about this room. Emily's lips trembled, her eyes, red from tears that refused to stop, searched the ceiling as if answers might be hidden in its blank white surface. For a moment, she said nothing. The machine beside her continued its steady beep, marking each second like a quiet witness. Then, barely above a whisper, her voice cracked. "The man I love is the one trying to kill me." Silence followed, not the peaceful kind, the kind that presses against your chest until breathing becomes a choice. The doctor paused, just for a fraction of a second, not enough to show surprise, just enough to suggest he already knew. Emily turned her head slightly, as much as the restraints allowed. Her gaze drifted to the glass window on the far wall. It was tinted, but she could feel it. Someone was watching, someone who had once held her hand, someone who had promised her forever. Have you ever trusted someone so completely that you would have given them everything without question? Your time, your loyalty, your future, your life. Emily had. And now, that trust had brought her here. A tear slid down the side of her face, disappearing into her hair. Her breathing quickened, shallow and uneven, as memories began to flood in, not of pain, not yet, but of something far more dangerous. Hope? The doctor nodded toward the nurse. "Prepare anesthesia." The nurse hesitated for the briefest moment. Glancing at Emily, there was something in her eyes. Not cruelty, not even indifference, something closer to discomfort. But it passed quickly, buried beneath routine. As the syringe was lifted, Emily's chest rose sharply. Wait, her voice was stronger this time. Not louder, but anchored by something deeper than fear. The doctor stopped. Emily swallowed hard, forcing herself to speak through the weight pressing down on her chest. "If I say no, does it even matter?" The question lingered in the air, fragile and dangerous. The doctor met her gaze. For the first time, there was something human in his expression. Not empathy, not quite, but recognition. "No," he said quietly, and just like that, the last illusion shattered. Emily closed her eyes. Another tear escaped, but this one was different. It carried something heavier than fear. Betrayal. The heart monitor continued its steady rhythm. Beep, beep, beep. Each sound now felt louder, sharper, like it was echoing through her entire life. A life that had not always looked like this. A life that once held laughter, small dreams, and quiet dinners at a worn kitchen table. A life before him. The syringe hovered inches from her arm, and just as the needle began to lower, the screen faded into darkness. We rewind, not to the moment she met him, but to the moment she still believed the world was kind. Because the most dangerous lies are not the ones we hear. They are the ones we want to believe. And Emily Carter wanted to believe in love. Would you have made the same choice if you were her? Would you have trusted him, or would you have seen the truth before it was too late? The answer is never as simple as we think, because sometimes the person who saves you is the same one who destroys you. And sometimes the story only begins when everything falls apart. The memory does not begin with wealth or grand promises. It begins in a small kitchen that always smelled faintly of boiled rice and worn-out hope. Emily stood by the sink, sleeves rolled up, her hands submerged in cloudy water. The faucet dripped with a slow, uneven rhythm, a sound she had grown used to over the years. Outside, the late afternoon light filtered through thin curtains, painting soft shadows across the cracked tiles. Her mother coughed from the other room. It was not a violent sound, but it lingered longer than it should have. The kind of cough that settles into the walls, into your thoughts, into your future. Emily paused, closing her eyes for a moment. You ever carry a quiet fear that never really leaves you, the kind that sits in your chest every day, whispering that no matter how hard you try, it might never be enough? She dried her hands quickly and stepped into the bedroom. Her mother lay propped up against two pillows, her face pale but warm with a tired smile. "You are home early," her mother said gently. Emily nodded, forcing a brightness into her voice that she did not quite feel. Shift ended sooner. "I told you not to worry." But worry was all they had left to share. The small table beside the bed was cluttered with pill bottles, each one a reminder of time slipping through their fingers. Medical bills were stacked beneath them, unopened, as if ignoring them might somehow make them disappear. Emily sat down beside her mother and reached for her hand. It was thinner than she remembered. "I will figure it out," Emily said quietly. Her mother smiled, but there was a knowing sadness behind it. "You always say that, because I always mean it." And she did. Emily Carter had built her entire life on one simple belief, that if she just kept going, kept trying, kept loving, something good would eventually come. It had to. That night, she walked home from her second job under the glow of streetlights that flickered more than they shined. The air was cool, carrying the distant hum of traffic and the quiet loneliness of a city that never noticed people like her. She stopped in front of a small pawn shop, her reflection staring back at her through the glass. Tired eyes, worn coat, determination holding everything together. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small necklace, a simple silver pendant. It was not expensive, not even close, but it had been her father's, the last thing he left behind before he passed. Her fingers tightened around it. This necklace had always meant one thing: family, sacrifice, endurance. And for a moment, she considered letting it go, but she could not. Not yet. Not while it was the only piece of him she still carried. So she slipped it back into her pocket and kept walking. Because some things, no matter how desperate you are, you just cannot trade away. At least, that is what she believed then. The next day was where everything changed. It happened in the most ordinary way possible. Rain. Soft at first, then steady, then relentless. Emily stood under the narrow awning of a bus stop, clutching her worn bag to her chest. Her shoes were soaked, her hair damp, strands clinging to her face. The bus was late. Of course it was. Around her, people checked their phones. Sigh hid, complained quietly, but Emily just stood there, staring out at the rain like it might wash something clean inside her. Then a car pulled up, sleek, black, out of place. The window rolled down slowly, and that is when she saw him for the first time. Daniel Hayes. His voice was calm, warm, almost disarming. "You are going to get sick standing out here." Emily blinked, caught off guard. "I am fine." He smiled slightly, like he had heard that answer 100 times before. No one standing in the rain is ever fine. There was no arrogance in his tone, no pressure, just quiet certainty. He stepped out of the car, holding an umbrella, and walked toward her. For a brief moment, everything around them seemed to slow. The rain, the noise, even the weight on her chest. He held the umbrella over her without asking. "You should not have to carry everything alone," he said. Simple words, but something about them landed deeper than they should have. Have you ever met someone who says exactly what you needed to hear? Not what you expected, not what you asked for, but what somehow reaches a place inside you that you did not know was breaking. Emily felt that, and it scared her a little. "I do not even know you," she said softly. Daniel's smile did not fade. "Then let me fix that." It should have felt strange. It should have felt wrong, but it did not, because for the first time in a long time, someone was looking at her like she mattered. Not like a burden, not like a problem to solve, but like someone worth choosing. The bus never came, and somehow, that became the least important thing that day. He drove her home, not the kind of home he was used to, not the kind that matched his world. But he did not hesitate, did not judge, did not even seem surprised. Instead, he listened, really listened, to her story, her worries, her quiet fears. She never spoke out loud, and when she apologized for talking too much, he shook his head. No one has ever talked enough when they have been silent for too long. That night, something shifted, not dramatically, not loudly, but enough, because hope does not always arrive like a storm. Sometimes, it shows up quietly, like an umbrella in the rain. Days turned into weeks, weeks into something that felt dangerously close to happiness. Daniel became a constant. He paid for her mother's medical treatments without making it feel like charity. He fixed things around the house that had been broken for years. He remembered small details, the way she liked her tea, the songs she hummed without realizing, the dreams she had almost given up on. And slowly, carefully, Emily let herself believe. Maybe this is what people mean when they talk about fate. Maybe some people really do arrive at exactly the right moment. Maybe love does not have to hurt. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky in soft gold, they stood outside her home. Daniel reached into his pocket and pulled something out. A small velvet box. Emily's breath caught. He opened it. Inside was a necklace. Silver. Elegant. Delicate. More beautiful than anything she had ever owned. He stepped closer and gently moved her hair aside. "May I?" She nodded, unable to speak. As he fastened it around her neck, his fingers brushed lightly against her skin. A simple touch, but it lingered. "You deserve something that reminds you of your worth," he said quietly. Emily looked down at the necklace. It shimmered in the fading light, and without realizing it, she reached into her pocket. Her father's pendant. For the first time, she hesitated. Two necklaces, two meanings, one tied to the past, one promising a future. Which one would you choose, the life you came from or the life someone is offering you? Emily smiled, her eyes soft with something she had not felt in years. She chose both, or at least, she thought she could. That night, she fell asleep with a sense of peace she had almost forgotten existed. Her mother was stable. The bills were no longer suffocating, and someone had chosen her. But what she did not see, what she could not see, was that some gifts are not given out of love. They are given as investments, and sometimes the price comes later, much later. Would you have seen the difference, or would you have believed it too? At first, nothing felt wrong. That is how the best lies work. They do not arrive as danger, they arrive as comfort. Weeks passed, and Emily's life began to resemble something she had only seen from a distance before. The kind of life where bills were no longer stacked in quiet dread, where her mother's laughter returned, soft but real, where evenings were no longer spent calculating what they could not afford, but imagining what might finally be possible. Daniel became the center of it all. He was there in the mornings with coffee she never asked for but always needed. He was there in the afternoons, checking on her mother with a patience that felt almost too perfect. He was there at night, his voice low and steady, promising a future that sounded safe. Safe. That word settled deep inside her. Have you ever mistaken comfort for truth? Have you ever believed that because something feels right, it must be real? Emily did not question it. Why would she, when everything she had prayed for was finally unfolding in front of her? But truth has a way of revealing itself. Not all at once, but in fragments. Small cracks that only make sense when it is already too late. The first crack came quietly. It was a late evening. The house was still. Her mother had fallen asleep. Her breathing slow and even. Emily stepped outside to get some air, wrapping her coat tightly around herself as the cold brushed against her skin. Daniel had said he would call. He had not. It was not like him. She told herself it was nothing. People get busy. Life happens. Still, something pulled at her. So she called. Once. No answer. Twice. Straight to voicemail. A third time. This time, it rang longer, then stopped. Emily lowered her phone slowly. A strange feeling settled in her chest. Not fear. Not yet. Something quieter. Doubt. The next day, Daniel appeared as if nothing had happened. Flowers in hand, smile perfectly in place. "I am sorry about last night," he said gently. "Work ran late." His voice was smooth, effortless, and for a moment, Emily almost let it go. Almost. But something in his eyes, it flickered, just for a second. You ever notice how truth hides in the smallest details? Not in what people say, but in what they avoid. Emily tilted her head slightly. "What kind of work keeps you from answering your phone all night?" Daniel's smile did not break. "The kind that pays for hospital bills," he replied lightly. It was a perfect answer. Charming, deflecting, effective, and it worked, at least on the surface, because Emily nodded, because she wanted to believe him, because trusting him was easier than questioning everything. But the crack did not disappear. It grew. Days later, it happened again. This time, she did not call. This time, she followed. It was not planned. She had gone into the city to pick up medication for her mother. The streets were crowded, alive with movement and noise. She stepped out of the pharmacy, adjusting the bag in her hands. When she saw it, Daniel's car, parked across the street. He stepped out, but he was not alone. A woman stood beside him, elegant, confident, familiar in a way that made Emily's stomach tighten. The woman leaned in slightly, her hand resting on Daniel's arm, not casually, not accidentally, intimately. Emily froze. The world around her blurred. She could not hear the traffic anymore, could not feel the cold. All she could see was them. Daniel said something. The woman laughed softly, and then he smiled. Not the polite smile he gave strangers, not even the warm one he gave Emily. This was different, closer, personal. Emily's grip tightened around the bag in her hands. It slipped. Medication scattered across the pavement. The sound snapped something inside her. Daniel turned. Their eyes met. And in that single moment, everything changed. Time stretched. His expression shifted. Not to guilt, not to panic, but calculation. You ever look at someone you love and realize you might not know them at all? Daniel walked toward her. Calm, controlled. Emily did not move. "Who is she?" Her voice was steady. Too steady. The kind of steady that comes right before everything breaks. Daniel glanced back briefly, then returned his gaze to her. "A colleague," he said. Simple, clean. A lie. Emily's eyes did not leave his. Colleagues do not look at each other like that. Silence. For the first time since she met him, Daniel did not have an immediate answer. And that was when the second crack formed, not in his story, but in her trust. The woman across the street watched them, not with curiosity, not with concern, but with something colder, recognition. Emily followed her gaze, and for a brief moment, the woman smiled, not kindly, not apologetically, but knowingly, as if Emily was not a surprise, as if she was expected, as if she was already part of something. Something she did not understand. Daniel stepped closer. "You are overthinking this." His tone softened again, carefully measured. Emily shook her head slowly. "No, I think I am just starting to understand." But she was not. Not yet. Because the truth was not just about another woman. It was not just about lies. It was something far darker. Something planned. Something deliberate. That night, Emily could not sleep. The room felt different. The walls closer. The air heavier. Her mother slept peacefully beside her. Unaware, protected Emily sat by the window. staring at the reflection staring back at her. The necklace around her neck caught the faint light. Daniel's gift. Beautiful. Braces. Perfect. Her hand slowly moved to it. Then, almost instinctively, she reached into the drawer beside her and pulled out her father's old pendant. 2 necklaces, 2 truths. One she had trusted, one she had never questioned. For the first time, they did not feel the same. The next morning, the truth came looking for her. Not gently, not slowly, but all at once. It started with a message, unknown number, no name, just a single line: if you want to live, stop trusting him. Emily stared at the screen. Her heart pounded. A second message followed. Meet me at 3 p.m. Come alone. Do not tell Daniel. Attached was a photo, grainy, taken from a distance, but clear enough. Daniel, the same woman, and someone else, an older man, standing outside a private medical facility. Emily's breath caught. Her eyes moved slowly across the image, until they landed on something that made her blood run cold. A file. In Daniel's hand, partially visible but readable, a name. Her name, Emily Carter. And beneath it, a word she did not understand at first. Until she did. Donor match. The room spun. Everything inside her collapsed at once. Not love, not betrayal, but realization. You were never chosen. You were selected. The message on her phone blinked again. Time is running out. Emily looked down at the necklace around her neck. It no longer felt like a gift. It felt like a mark, a symbol, not of love, but of ownership. And for the first time since she met him, Emily Carter was afraid. Not of losing him, but of what staying meant. Because the story she believed she was living was never a love story. It was a plan, and she was at the center of it. Fear does not always arrive as panic. Sometimes, it settles quietly into your bones and refuses to leave. Emily did not go to the police. Not yet. Because something inside her told her that this was bigger than a misunderstanding. Bigger than a lie she could confront and walk away from. The message on her phone still lingered in her mind. Each word pressing deeper with every passing second. If you want to live, stop trusting him. Those were not words someone sends lightly. Those were not words meant to scare. They were meant to warn. And warnings like that usually come too late. Emily stood in the kitchen, staring at the sink as water ran endlessly from the faucet. She did not remember turning it on. Her hands rested against the counter. Pale, trembling just enough to betray what she was trying to hold together. In the other room, her mother coughed again. That sound grounded her. It reminded her what was at stake, because this was never just about her. It was about the one person she could not afford to lose. Have you ever felt trapped between protecting yourself and protecting someone you love? Because sometimes saving yourself means risking everything else. And Emily did not know which choice would destroy her more. At exactly 3 p.m., she went to the meeting. Against every instinct, against every warning voice in her head. She went. The location was quiet. Too quiet. An old cafe tucked between buildings that had long stopped caring about time. Most of the chairs were empty. The air carried the faint smell of stale coffee and something heavier. Tension. She stepped inside slowly. Every sound felt amplified. Every movement watched. And then she saw him, sitting in the corner, the man from the photo. Older, composed. His presence did not demand attention, but it held it anyway. He gestured for her to sit. Emily hesitated. Then she did. "You came alone," he said. It was not a question. Emily nodded. "Who are you?" The man studied her carefully. Not like Daniel. Not like someone evaluating value. More like someone measuring damage. "My name is not important," he replied calmly. "What matters is that you listen carefully. Because you are running out of time." Emily's fingers tightened in her lap. "Then start talking." The man leaned forward slightly. "The people around Daniel, they are not who you think they are." Emily let out a breath that sounded more like disbelief. "I already know that, no?" he said quietly. "You know a part of it, not the truth." Something in his tone shifted, and suddenly, the room felt colder. They do not find people by accident. They choose them. They study them. Health records, blood types, family background, financial pressure. Emotional vulnerability. Each word landed like a weight. And then he said it. "You were selected years ago." Emily blinked. "Years, that was impossible. I only met him recently." The man shook his head slowly. "You met him when they decided it was time." Silence. Heavy. Crushing. Emily's mind raced, trying to reject what she was hearing. "That does not make sense." "It does if you understand their business." Her heart skipped. "Business." He slid a thin folder across the table. "Do not open it here." Emily stared at it, but did not touch it. "What do they want from me?" The man held her gaze. "Everything that keeps someone else alive." Her breath caught. "Kidneys. Blood. Whatever matches." Emily's stomach turned. This was not just a betrayal. This was something organized, calculated, cold. "Why are you telling me this?" The man leaned back slightly. "Because someone once tried to warn another girl." Emily's chest tightened. "Tried," he nodded. She did not believe it. The meaning hung in the air. Unfinished. Unspoken. But understood. Emily swallowed hard. "What do I do?" The man's eyes softened. Just slightly. "You stopped trusting him." Too late. The words escaped before she could stop them. Because even as she sat there, she knew something had already shifted beyond her control. When she returned home that evening, everything felt wrong. Not obviously, not dramatically, but enough. The house was too quiet, the air too still. Her mother was not in bed. Emily's pulse quickened. "Mom," no answer. She moved quickly through the house. Kitchen, empty. Bathroom, empty. Then the bedroom door creaked open. Her mother lay there, unconscious, not sleeping. Something else. Emily rushed to her side. "Mom, wake up." Nothing. Her hands shook as she reached for her phone. And then she saw it. A note on the bedside table. Simple, clean, handwritten. "Come to the hospital. We need to talk about her treatment. Signed, Daniel." The room spun. "You ever realize the trap has already closed? Not when you step into it, but when you try to leave." Emily grabbed her coat, her hands moving on instinct rather than thought. The folder from earlier sat on the table. She hesitated, then took it, because something told her she was going to need it. The hospital was too familiar, too polished, too calm. She walked through the doors and felt it immediately. Eyes on her, not obvious, but present. A nurse approached her with a polite smile. "Miss Carter." "This way, please." Emily followed. Each step felt heavier than the last. The hallway seemed longer than it should have been. The lights brighter, the silence louder, until finally a door, the nurse opened it. Inside, Daniel stood waiting, perfect as always, composed, smiling. Emily stopped at the threshold. Her chest tightened. "Where is my mother?" Daniel stepped forward slowly. "She is being taken care of." Not an answer, not really. Emily's voice sharpened. "What did you do to her?" Daniel sighed softly. "Emily, you are making this harder than it needs to be." There it was. Not concern, not love. Control. He reached for her hand. She pulled back. "Do not touch me." For a moment, something changed in his eyes. Not anger, not yet, but irritation. "You were supposed to trust me." The words hit differently now. Not romantic, not reassuring, but revealing. Emily laughed softly, but there was no humor in it. "Trust you," her voice trembled. "You chose me, not loved me." Silence. And for the first time, Daniel did not deny it. Instead, he simply said, "You were perfect for what we needed." The world stopped. No denial, no excuse, just truth, raw, unfiltered. Emily's hand moved slowly to the necklace around her neck. His gift. Her fingers clenched around it. It no longer felt beautiful. It felt like a chain. "Why me?" Her voice was barely a whisper. Daniel's answer was calm. "Because you had nothing. No power, no protection, no one who could stop us." Every word stripped something away, until nothing remained but reality. Behind him, the door clicked shut. Locked. The nurse was gone. The hallway silent. Emily took a slow step back. And in that moment she understood this was never about convincing her anymore. It was about finishing what they started. The trap was no longer closing. It had closed, completely. And now, there was nowhere left to run. "Tell me something," Daniel said quietly. "If everything I gave you felt real, does it matter why I did it?" Emily's eyes filled with tears. But this time they did not fall, because something inside her had changed. Yes, her voice was steady now. It matters because love should never cost your life. Daniel watched her, and for the first time there was no warmth left in his expression, only calculation, only purpose. "Then I am sorry," he said, "but this is where your part ends." And just like that, the illusion was gone, completely leaving only the truth behind, cold, precise, and impossible to escape. Or so it seemed. The door did not open again. Minutes passed, or maybe longer. Time had a way of losing meaning when fear took hold. Emily stood in the center of the room, her mind racing, every instinct screaming at her to move, to run, to do something. But there was nowhere to go, no one to call, no way out that did not already belong to them. Daniel had left, not in a rush, not with anger, but with the quiet certainty of someone who believed everything was already under control. And that was the most terrifying part. Have you ever realized that someone has planned every step you are about to take, that every reaction you have is already expected? Emily felt that now, like she was no longer living her life, but moving through a script someone else had written. Her hand tightened around the folder she had taken from the cafe. Slowly, carefully, she opened it. Inside were documents, medical records, test results, dates, years of dates. Her name appeared again and again. Emily Carter, compatibility confirmed, suitable donor priority candidate. Her breath caught. This was not something recent. This had been building long before Daniel ever stepped into her life. Before the rain, before the umbrella, before the promises. She flipped another page. Photos, taken without her knowledge. At work, walking home, standing outside her house. Her chest tightened. They had been watching her, studying her, waiting. You ever look back on your life and wonder how much of it was ever truly yours? Or if someone else had already decided your fate long before you realized it? Emily closed the folder slowly. Her hands no longer trembled, not because she was calm, but because something inside her had shifted. Fear was still there, but now it was accompanied by something else. Clarity. The door handle turned. Emily snapped her head up. The door opened, and a man stepped in. Not Daniel. Someone else. Tall, composed, dressed in a way that did not belong to this place, yet somehow fit perfectly within it. His expression was neutral, almost cold. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then he said quietly, "You should not be here." Emily blinked. That was not what she expected. "Neither should you," she replied. His eyes flickered, just slightly. He stepped inside and closed the door behind him. But this time, it did not lock. A small detail, but Emily noticed. "Who are you?" The man did not answer immediately. Instead, his gaze moved to the folder in her hands. "So you know." Emily tightened her grip. "Enough." A pause. Then, slowly, "My name is Michael Reeves." The name meant nothing to her, but something in the way he said it felt important. And then he added, "I am not part of this." Emily let out a short breath. "That is hard to believe." "It should be," he admitted. His voice was calm, not defensive, not persuasive, just honest, and that was unfamiliar. "Why are you here?" Michael took a step closer, but not enough to invade her space. "Because you are about to make a mistake." Emily's jaw tightened. "A mistake?" "Yes." He gestured slightly toward the door. "Running blindly, confronting them, trusting anyone in this building. All of that ends the same way." Her heart pounded. "And you know that how?" "Because I have seen it before." The room fell silent again. Emily studied him carefully. There was no urgency in him, no panic, but there was something else. Weight, like he carried knowledge he did not want, but could not ignore. "Then why help me?" For the first time, Michael hesitated. "Not long, but long enough. Because I should have helped someone else." The words landed heavier than anything else he had said. "Should have," past tense, regret. Emily's voice softened slightly. "The girl you mentioned." He nodded once. "I was too late." Silence. The kind that does not need explanation. Emily looked down at the folder again, then back at him. "What do I do?" Michael stepped closer now, his voice lower. "You survive. Not escape, not fight. Survive." There was a difference. A big one. Emily frowned slightly. That does not sound like a plan. It is not. He said, it is the only thing that keeps you alive long enough to have one. She searched his face, trying to find something, anything that told her whether she could trust him. But trust had already cost her everything. So she asked the only question that mattered. Why me? Michael did not look away. Because you are still alive. Simple, brutal, true. A distant sound echoed down the hallway. Footsteps. More than one. Michael's posture shifted instantly. Not panic, focus, they are coming back. Emily's pulse spiked. Then Michael moved quickly to her side. Listen to me carefully. His voice was no longer calm. It was precise, urgent, but controlled. Do not resist them, do not argue, do not try to run. Her breath quickened. You just said I should survive. Exactly. He held her gaze firmly. And survival sometimes means letting them think they have already won. The words felt wrong. Everything about them felt wrong. But something in her knew he was right. Michael reached into his pocket and pulled something out. A small object. A thin chain. A pendant. Silver. Simple. He held it out to her. Wear this. Emily stared at it, confused. I already have one. Her hand instinctively moved to the necklace Daniel had given her. Michael's eyes flicked to it. And for the first time, something darker crossed his expression. Take that off. His voice was sharp now. Immediate. Emily hesitated. That necklace. It meant something, or at least, it used to. Michael's voice dropped lower. That is not a gift. It is a tracker. The words hit like a shock through her body. Emily's fingers froze. Slowly, carefully, she unclasped it. The moment it left her skin, something shifted inside her, like a weight had been removed, or a truth had finally been accepted. Michael took it from her hand and slipped his own pendant into her palm. This one means something different. Emily looked down at it. It was not beautiful, not polished, but it felt real. What does it mean? Michael met her eyes. It means someone is watching over you, not to use you, not to control you, but to protect you. A distant voice echoed from the hallway, closer now. Emily's heart pounded. Why are you doing this? Michael did not look away. Because I have been watching you for a long time. Her breath caught. Not like them, he added quickly, not to take something from you, to make sure no one else did. The difference was subtle, but it changed everything. And then, for the first time, there was something in his voice that was not controlled, not measured, but deeply human. I could not let it happen again. Emily's eyes searched his, and in that moment, something impossible happened. In a world where everyone had lied, where every promise had been a trap, where every act of kindness had a cost, she felt something unfamiliar. Not safety, not yet, but possibility. The footsteps stopped outside the door. Michael stepped back slightly, his expression returning to neutral. Remember, he said quietly, survive first, then fight. The door handle turned, and just before it opened, Emily closed her hand around the new pendant. The old symbol of love gone, replaced, not with something perfect, but something honest. And for the first time since everything began, she was no longer completely alone, even if she did not fully understand why or who this man really was. Because sometimes the person who changes your fate is not the one who walks into your life loudly, but the one who has been standing in the shadows, waiting, watching, protecting long before you ever knew their name. The door opened with a sharp, controlled motion. 2 nurses stepped in first, followed by Daniel. Everything about him was exactly the same calm posture, the same composed expression, the same face that once made Emily believe she had finally found something good in a world that had given her so little. But now, she saw it clearly. Not warmth, not love, precision. Michael had already stepped back, his presence fading into the background like he belonged there all along. No one questioned him. No one acknowledged him. And that told Emily something important. He was not an outsider here, but he was not one of them either. Something in between. And right now, he was her only chance. Daniel's eyes moved to Emily, then to her neck. For a fraction of a second, his expression changed. The necklace was gone. That perfect, polished mask slipped just slightly. Where is it? His voice was still calm, but underneath it there was tension. Emily felt her heart pound against her ribs. This was the moment. The moment everything could fall apart, or the moment she could survive. She remembered Michael's words. Do not resist. Do not argue. Let them believe they have already won. She lowered her gaze. I took it off. Why? A pause. Emily swallowed. It felt too heavy. Silence. Daniel studied her, not like a man looking at someone he cared about, but like someone reassessing a variable that had changed. Then slowly he smiled again. It does not matter, and just like that the tension eased. Not gone, but redirected. You see, for them she was not a person. She was a process. And as long as the process continued, the details did not matter. Have you ever realized that to someone else you are not a story, you are just a solution? The nurses moved closer. Professional. Efficient. One of them reached for Emily's arm. We are going to prepare you now. Emily did not pull away. Every instinct screamed at her to fight, to run, to scream. But she did none of it. Because for the first time, she understood something terrifying. Survival does not always look like strength. Sometimes it looks like surrender. They guided her out of the room. The hallway felt longer than before. Colder. Each step echoed louder. Like a countdown. Beep, beep, beep. The sound was not real. Not yet. But she could already hear it in her mind, waiting for her. At the end of this walk, her fingers tightened around the new pendant hidden in her palm. It was small, unremarkable, but it grounded her. A different symbol, not of promises, but of truth. And that made all the difference. As they moved through the corridor, Emily noticed something. Michael was gone. Just gone. As if he had never been there at all. A flicker of fear returned. What if she imagined him? What if this was all just another layer of the trap? But no. The pendant in her hand was real, solid proof. She was not completely alone, not yet. They stopped in front of a set of double doors. Bright light spilled from underneath. Too bright, too clean, too final. The nurse pushed them open. The operating room. Everything was exactly as she remembered. The table, the lights, the instruments. Waiting, always waiting. They helped her onto the table. Straps tightened around her wrists, her ankles, her body. Cold metal beneath her again. Full circle. But this time she was not the same person who had been brought here before. Because now she knew. The doctor stepped forward. The same one. Calm. Detached. Routine. Miss Carter, he said, his tone unchanged. Are you ready? The question sounded absurd now. Ready, as if this was something she had chosen. Emily turned her head slightly. Her eyes moved across the room. Searching. Hoping. Nothing. Just strangers. Just machines. Just the quiet certainty of what they were about to do. Her chest tightened, and for a moment fear almost won. Almost. Then her fingers pressed harder against the pendant, and something steadied inside her. She looked back at the doctor, and spoke clearly. Do I have a choice? The doctor paused. Just like before, that same fraction of a second. And then no, Emily nodded slowly. Of course. Of course not. The nurse prepared the syringe. Clear liquid. Silent. Final. As it was lifted, time slowed again. Every sound faded. Every breath sharpened. And in that moment, Emily made a decision. Not to fight, not yet, but to remember. Every face, every voice, every detail. Because if she survived this, they would not. The needle moved closer, inches away. Then everything changed. The doors burst open, not violently, but with undeniable force. Every head in the room turned. The doctor froze. The nurse stopped. Daniel stepped forward sharply. What is this? And then he saw him. Michael, standing in the doorway. But he was not alone. Two uniformed officers stepped in behind him. And suddenly the balance shifted. Completely. The room that once felt controlled, owned, sealed, was no longer theirs. Nobody move. One of the officers said firmly. The words cut through the air. Real. Authoritative. Unavoidable. Daniel's expression hardened. This is a private medical procedure. Michael stepped forward. No, his voice was calm. But this time it carried something different. Power. This is a crime scene. Silence crashed over the room. The doctor stepped back slowly. The nurse lowered the syringe. Emily's heart pounded so loudly she could barely hear anything else. It was happening. It was actually happening. Daniel's eyes locked onto Michael, and for the first time there was no control left in them. Only anger. "You have no idea what you are interfering with." Michael did not flinch. "I know exactly what this is." He gestured toward Emily. "And I know exactly who she is. Not a donor, not a case, not a transaction. A person." The word landed harder than anything else, because that was what they had taken from her. And now it was being given back. The officers moved forward. "We are going to need everyone to step away." The room shifted into motion. Fast, controlled, but chaotic beneath the surface. Daniel took a step back, then another, his mind racing, calculating, looking for a way out. But there was none. Not this time. Emily felt the straps loosen, hands helping her up, voices around her, real voices, not scripted, not controlled. She sat up slowly, her body weak, but her mind clear. And through it all, her eyes never left Daniel, because this was the moment the truth stood exposed. No lies left, no masks, just reality. And reality had finally caught up to him. Have you ever waited for justice so long that when it finally arrives, it does not feel real? It feels unreal. Like waking up from a nightmare you were not sure you would survive. Emily felt that now. But this was not the end. Not yet, because truth, real truth, does not just stop the moment. It demands to be seen by everyone. And that moment was coming next. The flashing lights came first. Not loud, not overwhelming, just present enough to turn a private nightmare into something the world could no longer ignore. Outside the hospital, a small crowd had already begun to gather. At first, just a few onlookers, then more, then cameras. Because truth, once it starts to surface, moves fast. And this truth was impossible to contain. Emily sat in a wheelchair near the entrance, a blanket draped over her shoulders. Her body still felt weak, her hands slightly unsteady. But her eyes were different now. Awake, clear, alive. An officer knelt beside her, speaking gently. "You are safe now. Miss Carter's safe." The word sounded unfamiliar, like something she used to believe in. Across the entrance, Daniel was being escorted out, not rushed, not dragged, but contained, controlled. For the first time since she met him, he was not the one in control of the room. And yet, even now, his posture remained composed. His eyes scanned the scene quickly, calculating, always calculating. Then, they found her, Emily. Their gazes locked, and for a brief moment, everything else faded again. Not fear, not love, something else. Recognition. You ever look at someone who once held your future and feel nothing? No anger, no sadness, just clarity. Emily felt that now. The man she thought she loved never existed. What stood in front of her was someone else entirely. And finally, the world was starting to see it too. A voice called out from behind the barricades. "Sir, is it true there is an illegal organ operation inside?" Another voice followed. "How many victims are involved? Were hospital staff part of this?" The questions came faster now, sharper, more urgent, because this was no longer just a story between two people. It was a system, a network, a crime that had been hidden in plain sight. Michael stepped forward, speaking briefly with one of the officers. He handed over documents, the same kind Emily had seen in the folder. Evidence, names, records, years of silence, now turned into proof. The officer nodded, and just like that, the narrative changed. Daniel was no longer a respected figure. He was a suspect. No, more than that, he was exposed. Have you ever seen someone lose everything? Not because they were caught by surprise, but because someone finally chose to speak. Emily watched as another officer approached Daniel. "Sir, we need you to come with us." Daniel did not resist. He simply adjusted his jacket slightly. A habit, a reflex, control, even now. Then he spoke, not to the officers, to Emily. "This is not over." His voice was calm, but there was something darker beneath it. Not a threat. Not exactly. More like certainty. Emily held his gaze, and for the first time she did not feel small. She did not feel chosen. She did not feel trapped. She felt free. Yes, her voice was quiet, but steady. It is Daniel's expression shifted, just slightly. A crack, small, but real. Because for the first time, she was not part of his plan anymore. She was outside of it. And that was something he could not control. The officers guided him toward the vehicle. Cameras flashed. Voices rose. Questions filled the air. And just like that, the man who once entered her life like a savior was leaving it as something else entirely. Something the world would soon understand. Emily's hand moved slowly to the pendant resting against her chest. Michael's pendant. It felt heavier now. Not physically, but in meaning. Before it was a symbol of survival. Now it was something more. Truth, protection, a second chance. A reporter's voice cut through the noise. "Miss Carter, can you tell us what happened?" Emily hesitated. The crowd leaned in. The cameras focused. The world waited. Have you ever had a moment where your voice could change everything? Where staying silent is easier, but speaking is necessary. Emily took a slow breath. Then she spoke. "He did not save me." Her voice was not loud, but it carried. "He chose me, not because he loved me, but because I was useful to him." Murmurs spread through the crowd. Cameras flashed faster. She continued, "And I believed him." A pause. Her eyes moved briefly. To Michael, standing just behind the officers, watching, not stepping forward, not taking credit, just there. Emily's voice softened slightly, but someone else saw the truth. The crowd shifted. Questions redirected. Who helped you?" Emily did not answer immediately. Instead, she looked down at the pendant again, then back up, and said simply, "Someone who expected nothing in return." Michael lowered his gaze slightly, as if even that was more recognition than he wanted. But the truth had already begun to move. Officers continued to bring out documents. Staff members were questioned. Names were written down. Everything that had been hidden was now unfolding in front of everyone. And this time, there was no way to bury it again. Because once the world sees something clearly, it cannot unsee it. Have you ever wondered how many stories like this never get told? How many people never get the chance to speak? Emily did. And that was why she did not look away. Not anymore. Because her story was no longer just hers, it was proof. Proof that truth can survive, even when everything else tries to destroy it. The ambulance doors opened behind her. A paramedic stepped forward gently. "We should take you in for observation," Emily nodded slowly. As they began to wheel her away, she looked back one last time. At the crowd, at the flashing lights, at the man who had tried to erase her life and failed. And then, her eyes found Michael again. This time, he did not look away. For a moment, nothing else existed. No noise, no chaos, just that quiet understanding between two people. One who had been broken, and one who had refused to let that happen again. Not loudly, not heroically, but quietly, consistently, and for longer than she ever realized. The ambulance doors closed. The noise outside faded. And for the first time since everything began, Emily allowed herself to breathe. Not because it was over, but because she had made it through the part that was meant to end her. And now, for the first time, the rest of her life was finally hers. To decide, the headlines came faster than anyone expected. By morning, the story was everywhere. Not hidden in the back pages, not softened or diluted. Front page, prime time, unavoidable. A respected businessman exposed. A private medical network under investigation. An alleged organ trafficking operation hidden behind polished walls and professional smiles. And at the center of it all, a woman who was supposed to disappear but did not. Emily sat by the hospital window, the early light stretching quietly across the floor. The room was still. Machines hummed softly in the background, steady and predictable in a way that life had not been for a long time. A television played silently in the corner. Images flashed across the screen. Daniel, escorted, questioned, named, no longer untouchable. Have you ever seen someone fall? Not suddenly, but completely, layer by layer. until nothing remains of the image they built. That was happening now. Investigators uncovered records, financial trails, connections that stretched far beyond one hospital. This was not one man, not one decision. It was a system, carefully constructed, carefully hidden. Until now, Emily watched without speaking. There was no satisfaction in her eyes, no relief that looked like victory. Because some truths, when they come out, do not feel like winning, they feel like finally stopping the damage. A soft knock came at the door. Michael stepped in, as always, without announcement, without noise. He closed the door behind him gently. "You should be resting," Emily gave a faint smile. "I have been resting my whole life." The words hung there. Not bitter, not angry, just honest. Michael nodded slightly. Fair enough. He moved closer, stopping at a respectful distance. "The investigation is expanding." Emily looked toward the television again. I figured. He followed her gaze briefly. "There will be more arrests, more names. This does not end with him." Emily's fingers traced the edge of the blanket. Good, a simple word, but it carried weight, because this was not about revenge. It was about something deeper. Accountability. You ever wonder what justice actually feels like? Is it loud, is it satisfying, or is it quiet, heavy, and necessary? Emily was starting to understand. Michael stepped a little closer. "There is something else." She looked at him. What he hesitated for a moment. "Your mother." Emily's breath caught instantly. "What about her? She is stable." Relief came fast. Sharp, overwhelming. But it did not last long, because Michael's expression had not softened. Not completely. "There are complications." Emily's hands tightened. "Tell me." He held her gaze. They were preparing her to. The words hit harder than anything else so far. Not just her. Her mother. Emily felt the air leave her chest. "No." Her voice broke slightly. "No, they would not." Michael did not interrupt, did not soften it. They would. Silence filled the room. Heavy, crushing. Emily turned her head away. Tears came this time. Not from fear, not from betrayal, but from something deeper. The realization of how close everything had come to being lost. How much had been at risk. How much still was. Have you ever thought you lost everything, only to realize later you almost lost more than you could have survived? Emily wiped her tears slowly, then looked back at him. "Will she recover?" Michael nodded. "She will need time, but she is safe." Safe. That word again. This time, it felt different. Real. Earned. Emily let out a slow breath. "Thank you." Michael shook his head slightly. "You do not owe me anything." "Maybe not," she replied softly. "But that does not mean I do not feel it." A quiet pause followed. Not uncomfortable. Just full. Outside, the world continued moving. Reporters still spoke. Investigations continued. And somewhere, people who had once believed they were untouchable were realizing they were not. Daniel sat in a holding room. No cameras now. No audience. Just walls. And silence. Across from him, an investigator placed a file on the table. "You have been very busy." Mr. Hayes. Daniel leaned back slightly, unbothered. "You have no idea what you are talking about." The investigator opened the file. Photos, records, names, victims. "We are just getting started." Daniel's eyes flicked across the pages. Still calculating, still searching for angles. "You built something impressive." The investigator continued. "But you made one mistake." Daniel looked up. "What is that?" The investigator met his gaze. "You assumed no one would survive long enough to speak." Silence. For the first time, Daniel did not have an immediate response. Not because he did not want to, but because the truth was undeniable. One person had, and that was enough. Back in the hospital room, Emily stood slowly by the window. Her body was still recovering, but something inside her felt stronger. Different. She reached up, her fingers brushing against the pendant resting at her collarbone. Michael's pendant. The third time it had meant something new. First, survival, then truth. Now, something more. Choice. It was no longer just about being saved. It was about what she would do next. She turned to Michael. "What happens now?" He did not answer immediately, because this was not his decision to make. "That depends on you." Emily nodded slowly. For so long, everything had been decided for her. Her struggles, her sacrifices, even her fate. But now, for the first time, the future was not something being taken from her. It was something she could shape. Have you ever had your life taken apart so completely that when you finally get it back, you do not know where to begin? Emily felt that. But she also felt something else. She was still here. And that meant something. A lot. Because survival is not the end of a story, it is the beginning of a new one. And this time, no one else would be writing it for her. Not Daniel, not fear, not the past. Just her, and the choices she would make next. Outside. The sun rose higher. Light filled the room. And for the first time, it did not feel cold, it felt possible. Time did not heal everything, but it gave space. Space to breathe. Space to think. Space to begin again. Weeks passed. The world moved on. As it always does. New stories replaced old ones. New headlines pushed past the truth that had once consumed every screen. But for Emily, nothing simply moved on. Because some experiences do not fade. They reshape you. She stood in the same small kitchen where everything had once begun. The same sink. The same worn tiles. The same quiet hum of a life that used to feel too small. But now, it felt different. Not because the space had changed, but because she had. Her mother sat at the table. A warm cup of tea cradled in her hands. Color had slowly returned to her face. Not fully, not perfectly, but enough to see the life that had almost been taken. They did not talk much that morning. They did not need to. Sometimes, silence is not emptiness. Sometimes, it is peace. Have you ever gone through something so overwhelming that when it is over, you do not feel joy, you feel stillness? Emily felt that now, and it was enough. Her hand moved to her chest, resting lightly on the pendant. Michael's pendant. It had changed again. Once, it meant survival, then truth. Now, it meant something deeper. It meant she was still here, and that mattered. A soft knock came at the door. Emily opened it. Michael stood there, same as always. Quiet, composed, unannounced, but no longer distant. Not really. You always show up like that, she said softly. He gave the smallest hint of a smile. Only when it matters. She stepped aside. Come in, he did. The space felt different with him there. Not intrusive, not overwhelming, just steady. Her mother looked up and smiled gently. You must be Michael, he nodded respectfully. Ma'am, thank you. The words came without hesitation, without formality, just truth. For bringing my daughter back, Michael shook his head slightly. She did that herself, Emily watched him, because that was who he was. He never claimed a moment, never took the credit, but he was always there. And that meant more than anything else. Later that afternoon, Emily stood outside. The same street, the same air, but everything felt lighter. Not because life had become easier, but because she was no longer carrying it alone. Michael stood beside her, not close, not distant, just there. They watched the sky shift slowly as the sun began to lower. There is something I never asked you, Emily said quietly. Michael glanced at her. What is that? She hesitated for a moment, then spoke. How long, he understood immediately. His gaze moved forward again. Long enough, that was not an answer. And yet, it was. Emily let out a soft breath. You could have told me. Yes, he did not deny it. Why did you not? Michael's voice was calm. Because you deserve to choose your life, not be led into it. The words settled between them. Simple, but powerful. Because that was the difference. Daniel had chosen for her. Michael had waited. And in that waiting, there was respect. There was care. There was something real. Have you ever met someone who loved you, without needing to control you, without needing to change you, without asking you to become something else? Emily turned to him slightly, and for the first time there was no fear in her expression, only honesty. You were there. All this time. He nodded once. Yes, she looked down briefly, then back at him. That must have been hard, a faint pause. Then, it was worth it. No grand gesture, no dramatic confession, just truth. And somehow, That meant more. Days later, they returned to the hospital, not as victims, not as evidence, but as something else. Closure. The same hallway, the same lights, but it no longer felt like a trap. It felt like a place she had survived. Emily paused outside the operating room, the door that had almost been the end of her story. Her hand moved to the pendant again. She closed her eyes briefly, then opened them, and stepped forward, not because she had to, but because she chose to. That was the difference now. Choice. Always choice. Later that evening, as the sun dipped low again, painting the world in soft gold, Michael stood beside her once more. This time, there was something different in the air. Not tension, not uncertainty. Something quieter, something certain. Emily turned to him. "There is something I want to say," he waited. No interruption, no pressure. She took a slow breath. "For a long time, I thought love meant sacrifice, giving everything, even when it hurts, even when it breaks you." She paused, her eyes steady. "Now I understand something else." Michael did not move, did not speak, because he knew this moment was hers. The right person does not ask you to lose yourself. Her voice softened. They help you find your way back. Silence, but not empty. Full, meaningful. Michael reached into his pocket. Not a grand box, not something polished or extravagant, just something simple. A small ring, unassuming, honest. He held it out. No performance, no audience, just them. "I do not want to save you," he said quietly. "I want to stand with you." Emily's breath caught. Not because it was unexpected, but because it was real, completely real. No illusion, no hidden cost, just truth. And that was everything. Have you ever been offered something you did not have to earn with pain? Something that did not require you to prove your worth? Something that simply chose you? Emily felt that now. She looked at the ring, then at him, and for the first time in a long time, she smiled. Not out of relief, not out of survival, but out of something deeper. Peace. Yes, one word, but it carried everything. Michael slipped the ring gently onto her finger. No music, no applause, just a quiet promise. And sometimes, that is the most powerful kind. The pendant rested against her chest. The symbol had changed one last time. Not survival, not just truth, but something complete. A reminder that the right person will never ask you to trade your life for love. They will protect it, respect it, and walk beside you through whatever comes next. The sky darkened slowly, stars beginning to appear. And for the first time, Emily did not feel like she was waiting for something to end. She felt like she was finally at the beginning of something real, of something honest, of something hers. Thank you for staying with this story until the very end. Not everyone has the patience to sit with a journey filled with pain, loss, and truths that are not easy to face. But you stayed, and in its own quiet way, that means something. Some stories don't end with a grand victory. There's no applause, no perfect moment like the ones we imagine in our dreams. Just a person, still standing after everything, still breathing, still choosing, still able to begin again. And maybe that's what truly matters. Emily didn't survive because she was strong from the beginning. She walked through fear, through betrayal, through moments where everything felt already decided, impossible to change. But what kept her going wasn't strength. It was something much simpler. She didn't give up on herself. In life, there may be times when we trust the wrong people, give our hearts to places that don't deserve them, or stay too long in a story that, deep down, we already know isn't right. And when everything falls apart, what we feel is not just pain, it's confusion. It's the question, where did I go wrong? It's the quiet fear that maybe we've lost too much. But there's something this story reminds us, very gently, that mistakes are not the end. The fact that you once trusted, once loved, once hoped, doesn't make you weak. If anything, it shows that you are someone who feels deeply, who dares to give, who chooses to live with an open heart. And sometimes, the hardest part isn't seeing the truth. It's having the courage to walk away from it. Not everyone can do that. Emily didn't become cold after everything. She didn't close her heart forever. She simply learned to see more clearly, to understand that love should never cost you yourself, that real care never feels like control, and that the right person will never come into your life to take something from you. They will simply be there when it matters. And step back if that's what keeps you whole. Maybe you're listening to this story at a certain moment in your life. Maybe everything feels steady, or maybe something inside you is still uncertain. If there's one small thing you can carry with you from this story, maybe it's this: you don't have to lose yourself to be loved. You don't have to prove your worth by enduring pain. And you don't have to stay just because you once believed in something. Sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is to walk away, quietly, without explanation, just choosing yourself again. And if you're going through something difficult right now, remember this: the fact that you're still here, still listening, still moving forward, is already a kind of strength. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to rush. You just have to keep going. Because like Emily, life doesn't end where everything breaks. Sometimes, that's exactly where it begins again. And maybe, somewhere ahead, you'll meet a different version of yourself, calmer, clearer, and gentle enough to never abandon yourself again.